Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Inside Sports Talk with your host, Joanna Roselli. Hope everyone is having a beautiful and wonderful Thursday. We are coming to you on a special day and a special schedule due to the NBA Finals happening on Wednesday and the NBA All Star game. The MLB All Star game on Tuesday night. Of course, that trumped our show. So we're coming here to you on this beautiful Thursday at 7, just after 7 p.m. tonight. And we'll be covering a lot of news that have been happening throughout the day with MLB, NBA, talking a little bit about the NBA Finals games 4, do a little recap and looking ahead and what's to come in games 5 and 6. Talking a little bit of the Olympic Games as well as a COVID outbreak, which has been the news of the day. But I am joined here with my co-host, Ed Cole. And today we also have a very special guest, Criss Partee. He is a writer for FullPressCoverage.com and also host of the Courtside Crossover podcast, joining us here tonight in the first top of the hour. Hi, Criss. How are you today?
Johanna, Ed, how y'all doing? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Criss, how are you, my brother?
We're all doing
I'm doing pretty good. Just enjoying this NBA Finals and the All-Star game the other night. It's just a lot going on in sports, and this time a year ago we had nothing. So I'm happy.
Yes, I know. A year ago, we didn't have hardly had any sports. I think we were just all really focusing on the last dance with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Go ahead, and 1 year later, we have all sports galore. Like, seriously, we have baseball, we have basketball, we have soccer, we have like everything at the same time going on. You name it, it's here. So, but it's really good, and I'm enjoying it.
Definitely.
So, and how are you today, Ed?
I'm good. Good. Yeah, just
Good.
excited. We got through game 4, and like you and Criss said, there's so much sports and so much stuff to cover. And a year ago at this time, we had nothing. So it's really great that we're in the mad rush for sports. And it's like, oh my gosh, goodness gracious. Where do we pick? We just pick up from one sport, go to the next one. It's so much stuff to go through, and it's awesome. It's all back.
But that's how
I
we love
know.
it, right?
Yes.
It is. And remember, Ed, we had talked a little bit ago, maybe about a couple of weeks ago. We went to bed, then we wake up and it's like breaking news. It's pretty much happened all over again. Not that it pretty much doesn't, but today is just where you have just learn about the news with COVID outbreaks coming about in the sports industry, not just one sport, but in multiple sports. And I want to go ahead and lead off with that. And it had been some time before we really came across any postponements, any cancellations, or any type of outbreak now for some time. One of the most breaking stories today has been with the Yankees game and the Red Sox tonight's game, which has been postponed or canceled. So due to 3 of the Yankees testing positive, 3 other Yankees were still pending the results of that and expected to be positive. Among those is Aaron Judge, and who also participated in the All-Star game this last Tuesday. So now there's that contact tracing that will have to be done in the event that he does test positive, and also involving Red Sox players that took place in that game, as well as many others. So now it's not only to those 2 teams, but to others, and taking it back to their organizations as well. But not only with MLB, but we also have the Tyson Fury and the Wilder fight, was to come here July 24th. It has now been postponed to October 9th in Las Vegas. And we also have the Olympics. We have Bradley Beal, who has entered the health and safety protocols and will not be participating in the Tokyo Olympics for Team USA. And we have just one of the first of many to come. Is this something that we're now going to see a trend occurring now with all of these outbreaks happening, not only in one sport, but in multiple sports? Criss?
I mean, it kind of sounds like it. I mean, of course, we all hope not. We don't want to repeat what we had, back in from March through really the rest of last year, where everything was canceled, and we don't want more shutdowns, not just of sports, but of society in general. You know what I mean? We've all been through that, and I think, quite frankly, everyone's had enough of it. So hopefully, as far as the Olympics, MLB, just pretty much any sport, the Tyson Fury fight that was supposed to happen, coming up here pretty soon, that got pushed back. So we just want them to, get these things under control. I mean, I think, once we found out that everyone was, the vaccine was available, people were going out to get it. We hear that, okay, enough people have the vaccine now that we can go ahead and kind of start lifting some restrictions. Well, we see what happens now. We've started lifting restrictions, and now we're all just, we've been stir crazy for a year. Most people have been locked in the house, depending where you've been, whatever state you're in. And I'm here in the Portland, Oregon area. So Oregon and Washington were pretty strict, along with California. California was really strict. I grew up in the Bay Area, and people back at home, they just lifted restrictions in April. Okay. So they were really strict in California. So I just really hope they can get these things under control, especially with the Olympics. You hear about over in Japan how there's been another outbreak, and we just want everyone to get back home safe and everyone there to be safe as well. But we really need to get these things, get this back under control before we end up, like we were a year ago, to where you can't do anything. We can't have that again. I don't think our economy can take that again. You know what I mean? We just can't take that again. So we got to get this under control and keep things moving.
Yeah, Chris, the economy can't take it, and we can't take it again, because we've been through this for the last 18 months, and we're just trying to get out under this thing and get back to a normal life. And then now the news has come out that the Los Angeles County is going to now start re-implementing the mask mandates there for all indoor activities. So it looks like there seems like there's more surges of COVID, and now especially here in Arizona and other states, this Delta variant has come up. So now we've got to deal with a whole new strain of this COVID virus. It's just like it just grows like another branch on the tree of this virus. And man, I'm sick of it. I know you two are sick of it. Everybody on this earth is sick of this stuff. We just want to wake up from this bad dream and say, did this ever happen at all? We just hope and pray that this was really a bad dream and it never happened at all, Chris, but it did.
That's what it feels like, a nightmare. Honestly, it really feels like we all went to sleep at the same time, woke up the same morning, and now we're in this different world. That's really what it feels like.
I feel like I'm in a little bit of the movie Outbreak. If you're familiar with it.
Yes.
Yeah, we kind of are.
I kind of have flashbacks from that when all of this started to surface and progress. I'm like, no, there's no way I'm living that in that movie.
Yeah. So where's that little monkey in our lifetime? Where's that little monkey that started this strain?
It must be on lockup somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah, they got him somewhere.
Do some searching.
But Joe, that is a shame that the Yankees and the Red Sox were canceled. And of course, as you mentioned, Bradley Beal won't be able to participate in the Olympics. And now Jeremy Grant's in the protocol, and they're thinking about canceling the game between the Team USA and Australia. We'll see what happens with that. And we'll just see what Greg Popovich can do as far as replacing Bradley Beal and Jeremy Grant. But it really is unfortunate that it's starting to creep back into our sports world, Chris and Joe, that we thought we were clear of it, and sports was like a respite for us, and an avenue, a way of escape for us mentally, that we didn't have to really think about that for at least 2 or 3 hours. Like last night, we had at least 2 hours and 45 minutes of outstanding basketball, and we could take our minds off of everything going on in our lives, Chris and Joanna, and then this news comes up.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, it's just like, it's a real downer. Let's just be honest. It's a real downer. Like you said, that was an amazing game last night.
Oh,
an amazing game. And I know we're going to get into that. The Suns should have won that game, but I know we're getting to that, but that game was amazing. It was really, for me, it was the best game so far of the series, because it was actually close towards the end of the game. The first 3 games, I mean, especially what was that, game 3, the first game the Bucks won. I mean, that was just a blowout from Jump Street. So, but yeah, it's just, let's just get this thing under control, and people, if you go somewhere and they want you to wear a mask, just wear a mask. Let's let's just be sensible and get through this. I know more people are getting the vaccine, but there's still a lot of people that aren't, that don't want to receive the vaccine. And hey, that's their right. They can do that. I don't, I'm not here to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do. I got the vaccine, but when I go places, grocery store, if they want me to wear a mask, I put the mask on. I'm not going to raise a fuss. We're trying to keep less people from, trying to keep from spreading it again, because obviously it's spreading again in certain places. I mean, we can see that. This is not just something that's being made up. It's happening. It's right in front of us.
Yes. And with that, Chris, we're just now, we're starting to see some normalcy back in not only in our day-to-days, but in sports, having fans back in the stands. Something not only us, as fans, as sports writers, as media covering the sport, but also the athletes. And now it's like we're taking a little bit of a step back. What is this going to mean if we're coming back full circle in a way to where we were, or taking 10 steps back to where we were last year, and having some type of a shutdown? Is that going to happen again? Yes, we're wearing the mask. A lot of these places now, or these teams and leagues now are accepting fans into, like I mentioned there, and some are still having, like the Olympics. You're not going to have fans there.
Nope.
And it's only going to be the athletes. But now, even with that, we're having the athletes. We have Criss Partee, who contracted COVID during the playoffs and was able to get out of it. Even he, who was vaccinated, which is what was reported, but still had an effect there. So what does this mean? Even if we're vaccinated, it's still something to worry about, and not to think, oh, I'm out of the woods, especially with the Delta variant and everything that is going on with that as it progresses. That it is a fluid situation still.
Definitely. I mean, like you said, Criss Partee, he missed time with COVID. So I mean, it's certainly still, now it doesn't seem to be as bad as it once was. But again, these new breakouts, and like you said, it's happening. Joe, you mentioned it's happening in multiple sports. So it's not like it's just confined to one area. I mean, we're seeing it in different parts of the world as well, still going on. So I mean, I guess we can all hope for the best. I mean, that's the most we can do. We all have to do our part. As far as, whatever that is, whatever you think your part is, that's what you need to do. But, we don't want to look up in a couple weeks and then the NFL is saying, okay, yeah, we're not going to have as many fans in stadiums again. Although we all know the NFL is about their money. So I doubt they're going to do that. The NFL is about their money, and they lost enough of it last season because there weren't fans until later in the season for most stadiums. So I doubt they're going to do that, but we just don't want really another shutdown. Some restrictions, okay, but another full-on shutdown, I just don't know what that's going to bring about. It's going to be too much for most people. I honestly think that.
Yeah, Chris, it would be unfortunate if we do have another outbreak of that magnitude. Let's hope and pray that does not happen. And I guess it would take something of that magnitude for the NFL, which would get back in their full swing, and MLB, of course, which is in their second half of the season, for them to kind of backtrack on allowing fans, or being able to change protocols and how they're allowing fans in, and the amount of fans that they would let back in. I guess exactly. It's like it was last year. It's like a wait and see game, Chris and Joe, as to see how this new strain or these new variants are coming about, and how quickly it either grows and gets worse, or hopefully it dissipates and goes away. We just don't know. It's one of those unknown factors that we have no control over.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Hopefully it's something that can be, we can put a stop to as a community, and not have to face something like we did last year. Because I will say, finally, it's nice to go back and being able to cover the sport, as a media, being able to have some type of access to the venues and the players in some sense. So I would hate to, not have that again. And seeing fans in the stands is just amazing. Yesterday, I covered the watch party for the Suns that happened here in Chase Field, which was amazing. Seeing the fans and everyone together and being to be a part of that was phenomenal. And being able to be a part and taking in these moments and as media, even more. So hopefully that's something we don't have to face back to what we did last year and be able to enjoy the sports now that they're coming back. But with that and talking NBA finals, let's go ahead and dive a little bit into that. It was a game 4 of the NBA finals between the Suns and the Bucks. And that is now even. The Bucks got even with the Phoenix Suns, which was a very close game, very intense nonetheless. It was so much more aggressive, and yes, one of the best games to watch.
Yes.
It was I can't even describe how I felt. I don't even have words. I can't even express it.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. That was crazy.
I would have it on my DVR, which I plan to go back and watch the full thing again in my couch. But I want to go ahead and just do a little bit of recap before we go ahead and do a little bit of preview going into Saturday's game, which is game 5, which was now the series is going to 6 games. We have ourselves a series, and which is what we expected with the Suns going to Milwaukee, and the Bucks did exactly what they needed to do, and more. So with that, there were a lot of mistakes that happened. But also there's a couple of things that also concern me, or a couple of players that concern me, which are Criss Paul and Devin Booker, that I want to go ahead and dive into as well. But first off, I want to go ahead and ask you, Chris, what are some strengths and weaknesses that you saw out of this game 4, or that shifted from the earlier in the series, which is what we saw in games 1 and 2, which Suns have home court advantage, and going into Milwaukee and having that disadvantage there?
Well, Joe, you mentioned it. You mentioned the intensity, the intensity for not just of the game in itself or the series in itself. I think once the Milwaukee Bucks got back home to Milwaukee, the intensity ratcheted up. For one, you're down 0-2 at that point, right? So you can't lose game 3. I mean, we've never seen anyone come back from 3-0. Now 3-1 has happened, but we've never seen anyone come back from being down 0-3 in a play, definitely not in the finals. We've never seen that. So as the Bucks, you have to come out in game 3 and be the more intense team. And I think we saw that game 4. I mean, well, I know because they blew the Suns out in game 3, right? That game, it just was never really close. Game 4, I'm just going to be honest. I said it a few minutes ago. The Suns had that game. It seemed like they controlled that game for really the first, 40 to 42 minutes of the game. That last 5 to 6 minutes there, the Bucks really came in and took that game over. I don't know what was going on with your boy Criss Paul. I don't know if he's injured. I don't know if he had the bubble guts last night. I don't know what happened to him last night. He was turning the ball over left and right. Criss Paul doesn't turn the ball over, okay? There's a reason they call him the point guard. He doesn't really turn the ball over. He's a true traditional basketball point guard. I mean, that's what he does. I mean, he holds the point guard position down more than really, especially anyone almost in his era as far as being a traditional point guard. Overall, though, the Suns, I think they had 17 turnovers last night to 5 for the Bucks. You lose the turnover battle by that much, you're probably going to lose that game. And the game was close. It was there for them to win. We saw Giannis Antetokounmpo make a huge play towards the end of the game on that lob that was going to DeAndre Ayton, where he blocked it, and that pretty much saved the game right there for the Bucks. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just really, for me, it was the intensity of the Bucks. And of course, we know when you go home, that gives, your team overall, but especially your role players, role players usually play better at home anyway. The first 2 games of the series, Jrue Holiday, it was almost, he might as well not have been on the court in Phoenix, those first 2 games, Jrue Holiday. He showed up these last couple games, especially in game 4. So it's going to be interesting going back for game 5. I originally picked the Suns to win this series in 5 games. Well, we know that's out the window now, right? They're Joe and Ed, they're not going to win it in 5 games. I still think they win it, but I think I see this series going 7 now. Devin Booker needs help. They cannot win this series if Criss Paul does not score as well. It's great. He's going to get his assists. We know that. That's what Criss Paul does. He can't turn the ball over for one. Like I said, I don't know if he would. And this was, they mentioned it on the broadcast a couple different times. I think it was Doris Burke mentioned it a couple different times during the broadcast. Criss Paul just didn't look right, and he didn't, because we know Criss Paul doesn't turn the ball over. Like, he rarely turns the ball over. What was that? I think Game 6 he against the Clippers, 41 points, no turnovers. Criss Paul is not a turnover machine. We know that. So for him to have as many turnovers as he did last night, something had to be going on there. I don't know what. I don't know if you guys have heard something, actually being down in the area. I'm not, but it was just really strange to me. But Devin Booker's going to need help. As great as he was, I thought he was going to put 50 on him, to be honest with you, because the way he got started, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going for 50 tonight. I think I tweeted that out too. But Criss Paul has to show up. He needs to score for them. He can't just be an assist guy. It's great that he gets guys in position, but he's got to score too. Devin Booker needs his road dog with him. Can't have 10 points out of Criss Paul. You can't win like that.
Yeah, and you can't have DeAndre Ayton score 6 points in the first quarter, Chris, and then score nothing after that.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened? Yeah,
totally unacceptable.
I mean, was everybody with the Suns in awe of what D Book was doing, and they just stepped back and said, "Okay, Devin, go ahead and do your thing. We see this is your night. You go ahead and do your thing." Or do you attribute it to Milwaukee's game plan defensively, because it was just one of those defensive struggles, guys? They were just going back and forth, and I loved every minute of it, because that is a defensive battle. If you were in it for the 3-pointers, then that was not the game for you, because both of those teams missed a lot of 3-pointers, but the defense was great. And as you mentioned, Chris, that 17-5 turnover ratio. So I'm looking. So in these finals, trending, and Joe and I talked about this before the game. From a turnover standpoint, the Suns are trending in the wrong direction. Game 1, they had 9 turnovers. Game 2, 12. Game 3, 14, and then 17 last night. That's not trending in the right direction. And CP's got no, it's going up. And CP's got 17 turnovers in the finals. So if you continue to do that, you're not going to win basketball games, like you mentioned, Chris. And also the fact that Milwaukee was so strong on the offensive glass last night, also 17-5 ratio. And then they beat them on the fast break points, 15-0, and second chance points, clearly, because they had 17 offensive rebounds. You're going to dominate on the second chance points, 19-7.
Oh, yeah.
And I totally agree with you, Chris, that there has to be something wrong with Criss Paul. This games 3 and 4, the Suns that we saw in facing the Bucks were a totally different team from games 1 and 2. But not only that, even going back to what we saw with the Clippers and to what we saw with the Nuggets. So I will go ahead and I will give you my take on what I think could be happening there. But first, the high turnover rate. Yes, that is something that totally killed them. The Suns had the game towards the end, they just got away from their fingers. Like, they're really just like tip of their fingers right there. But they need to work on that. They need to have the clock be their friend. That's one of the things that I see. Yes, great that they move the ball, that they're fast and they have to get that moving and to shoot the ball. But when it comes to pivotal moments like we saw last night, they kind of got a little bit impatient and they wanted to shoot for those threes and get rid of that ball. When you're coming to a fourth quarter in a pivotal moment, you need to strategically know how to place the ball and where to shoot and how to shoot it. It seems like they were just wanting to go for the win, and it just got away from them. It's what I saw there. But two things that concern me is, one, with Criss Paul, I think that there is something more with him, and I think that he may be injured. There was a comment made at the end of, I can't remember which game it was. I think it was probably at the end of the series, of the last series with the Clippers, where he had torn ligaments or something like that. But in his hand, yes.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so he kind of just brushed it off and didn't make a deal out of all of it, and kind of like it's nothing. But ever since he injured his shoulder, we have seen him struggle, and he's gotten better. But now, even with the rest, yes, that did help him. But when you're having games such as these, even if you have 2-day rest, you still the intensity. We named it. How intense and aggressive that these both teams are playing. That's going to take a toll on your physical aspect in your play, and I think that's one of the things that's taking a toll with Criss Paul. I think he had that. Monty Williams needs to probably have a little bit more of a 50-50 or 60-40 bench time and court time with Criss Paul if that is the issue. Right now, they're not going to want to say anything because it's the finals. It's going to be a big thing. I'm sure that more light is going to come once the finals are over and shed some more light on that. But also with that, Devin Booker in the same aspect kind of concerns me a little bit because sometimes I see that his play does change ever since he broke his nose, that broken nose in game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. So if you notice, sometimes, he may get a little bit, distant, or he doesn't get as aggressive and doesn't get in there as much as we typically would see Devin Booker do. And that's another thing that does concern me with the Phoenix Suns and these two players.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Devin Booker, I mean, yeah, you can see it ever since he broke his nose. I think it was against the Clippers, right? I think it was against the Clippers.
Yeah,
that
game
series.
2 of the Western Finals, yes.
Yeah, where he broke his nose. You can see since he's come back, especially those first couple games back, the mask, for one, was bothering him. It was bothering his shooting. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little hesitant to even go inside sometimes because you don't want to get hit in the face again. You know what I mean? Your nose was just broken, so it's not fully healed yet. That just happened a couple weeks ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if, yes, he was a little hesitant, especially when going inside, because you go inside and you got guys in there 6'8", 6'9", 230, 240, 250 pounds. Arms are flailing everywhere, bodies are flying around. All it takes is one good smack to the face, and he may be out a lot longer, and Phoenix is not going to win this without him. He needs to get through this series. Like, they need him. Criss Paul may be the most important player, but Devin Booker is their best player on the team. And he's been the best player on this team for, really since he got there, 5-6 years ago. So, another player, just real quick, I want to bring up Cam Johnson. I think Cam Johnson needs a little more. He's getting playing time. I think he needs more touches, honestly, especially going back home. Like we said before, role players usually play better at home in series, especially in the finals. This young kid, I mean, he's in his second year. He's going to, in my opinion, he's going to be really good. I mean, you guys got a gem right there, honestly. You got a gem right there. I won't even say a hidden gem because even coming out of North Carolina, people thought he would be good. I think he can be really good. I think he needs more touches. He's getting his shots. And I mean, that dunk he had the other night over who did he dunk over the other night? Where he just murdered him.
Yeah, I can't remember who it is, but yes.
My man that used to play with Houston. But yeah, I mean, that was a true. If kids still had posters, that would have been a poster. I mean, that kid Cam Johnson, I think he needs more touches, honestly, because when he gets going and he gets in a rhythm, he's knocking down threes, even though they're not shooting great as a team from three. But when he gets going, he can knock those down too, and he can get his own shot. So, like I said, I think he needs to get a little bit more run and a few more touches as well.
Criss, what did you see last night from the officiating? I thought it was really, really uneven as far as what they were calling. There were a lot of times for the majority of the game, the referees would let them go and be physical. We saw that. They let them go to an extent. And then there's a lot of ticky-tack fouls that, of course, Jay Crowder and D Book was not really happy with. And then there were some calls they were just like when he wrapped up Drew Holiday at the end, D Book did. Why did not call him for that? Why did not call a sixth foul for that? And they were like, so they then afterwards they said the one referee said he said basically, yeah, we should have called that sixth foul. Well, why didn't you call it? Okay. Were they scared to foul him out because he was having a great night?
Thank you, Ed, because that's what I was going to say. Well, why didn't you? If you know you should have called it out, called the foul, why didn't you? And that's my thing. The second I saw that, I said, okay, we're not going to foul out their best player in game 4 of the finals. Because he was going now, why Booker went for the foul himself is beyond me. Dude, you got to know, you're the guy that makes this team go, okay? Like I said, Criss Paul may be the most important player because he's the most experienced as far as overall, not as far as the playoffs or finals, but just overall on the team. He's Criss Paul. He's the leader of this team. But Devin Booker, you put up, a 40 spot on him last night. You're the guy on this team. You can't foul out with a couple minutes left in that game. Because then you have no chance, really, honestly. When it's that close and they still got their best guy, you're probably done for sure. They still had a shot at that point, even though it was getting late. It wasn't much time left in the game, but that to me just looked like okay, we're not going to foul out your best guy, even though it's blatant. You know what I mean? Even though it's blatant that he fouled him on purpose. I mean, that was not an accident. He went for the foul. So and like you said, the foul calling, and earlier in the series, you had the coaches come out and kind of comment on the do a little posturing when it comes to the referees. So the referees kind of switch things up. They'll do that sometimes, and maybe they go back to Milwaukee and okay, we're going to give Milwaukee a few more fouls because Coach Bud came out and said they don't think they're getting the fouls they should get. Well, now you got the same thing with Phoenix because they got some calls against them, like you said, some ticky-tack fouls that really shouldn't have been fouls. But then when they had a real foul that was going to foul a guy out, you didn't want to call it. And you basically gave him an easy bucket, an easy 2 points, because Giannis just happened to be trailing right there as Drew dropped that right off to him. So, yeah, the officiating has really just been up and down in this series. I don't understand why does the officiating have to change from the regular season to the playoffs? Just referee how you always referee. You know what I mean? Sometimes if you're going to let them play, let them play. If you're going to call ticky-tack, call that all the time. I mean, I've even heard other, I've heard analysts or even other former players say the same thing. Just call it the way you're going to call it. Don't change it from playoffs, first round, second round, conference finals. Because then players don't really know what to expect. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's one of the things that totally gets to me. And I've had this conversation with Ed and one of our also good friends, PLR, is the officiating, with how it changes. And it goes also from game to game or venue to venue. And then also, or the matchups, and depending on who they're facing. So I just have it be the way it's supposed to be. Have the referees all be equal, be the same. If you're going to call, we saw that with the Suns and the Lakers. How, the big gap that was there in officiating from the Lakers versus the Suns. And we've seen it throughout just not only with them, but throughout the playoffs and even now throughout the finals. So you're going to do it, a certain way, stick to that way and not change it 10 different times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, let's just be honest real quick. The NBA didn't want the Suns getting out of that first round against the Lakers. Let's be honest.
Of course not.
They want LeBron they want LeBron, his brand, and the Lakers, their brand in the finals as much as they can. So let's not even act like that's not a thing. The NBA wanted the Lakers. If it wasn't going to be the Lakers, they wanted the Clippers. Okay, but the Suns were too much. Okay, so they were able to get by. Now we know Kawhi was out, but hey, that's part of the game. Injuries happen, so they were able to get there. But yeah, just the referee. Can we get some more consistency? Basically, that's all we're asking for. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Chris, let me ask you one thing about Giannis. Why is the NBA letting him get away with the free throws and this whole crazy animation, this stupid thing he does when he goes through the motions before he gets the ball, and this whole process is way more than 10 seconds. Why is he allowed to get away with this stuff?
Let's see, Ed. He's a two-time MVP, right? He's a one-time defensive player of the year, all NBA. I mean, you can just keep going and going and going. As of right now, I don't know if you would say he's the biggest star because Criss Paul is a big star too. Criss Paul is, I mean, if you notice, he's on every State Farm commercial, especially in this series, right? You're seeing every time they go to a break, the first thing is State Farm. He's everywhere. But as far as accolades on the court, it's Giannis. So he's kind of that representative. So they're going to let some things slide with him. If he was a role player, they would definitely, because you can hear the crowd counting from the time he starts. Sometimes they get to 15. So even if they're a couple seconds early, he's still going 2-3 seconds over what he should. They're just at this point, because it's been made so big a deal at this point, they're just going to let it go. Now, maybe next season we see a little switch up in that, and maybe they get a little more strict on everybody with that, especially him. But for now, they're not going to violate, the former two-time league MVP, who might end up being finals MVP if they win. They're not going to violate him every time he gets to the free throw line because, like you said, he's pretty much going over the 10 seconds every time for the most part. He hasn't changed much. He hasn't shortened it at all.
No, I think he does it on purpose, even more. Of course.
Yeah. And he loves it. I'm sure he loves it too. He's like, oh, this is great. This is drama. Everybody is making. I'm the center of attention. Everybody's counting down on me. He's got to be just like loving this. Like, yeah, if he could look around while he's doing that, I'm sure he would. It is comedy. It really is.
Yeah. So I want to go ahead and go back, Chris. You mentioned Kawhi Leonard and his ACL injury, and we knew he was sitting it out. The Clippers wouldn't say anything about it, wouldn't say much of anything really, other than it was, pretty much day to day and day of game kind of decision. But we knew there was something more. We now have learned that he has undergone surgery, and he's gonna. We need to nurse that back. It's gonna take some time, but he's expected to actually not be out for too long and should be available to start, the next season for 2021-2022 campaign. Do you guys think that is actually going to happen? Coming off an injury, you have physical therapy, you have all of these, a lot that goes into, coming back to 100% or at least as close to 100%. The next season is here just weeks away. Maybe a month or two away after the finals wrap up, really, to be honest, literally weeks away.
Yeah. I mean, we all remember what happened with the Spurs and his quad injury, right? And how long he was out, right? And the whole drama that happened back and forth between himself and the team, which that communication or lack thereof broke down his relationship with them, right? So we remember that. That wasn't even 5 years ago. We've seen Kawhi have a serious injury. I would be willing to bet money that he is not there for opening day. In what was that? Is it late October they start the regular season, something like that? Late October, something like that, or mid to late October.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would be willing to bet money that he's not on the court starting, or even coming off the bench, whatever they want to do. I would be willing to bet money he's not there. I'm looking more at the All-Star break. For him to be back, maybe right after the All-Star break, because he's going to be cautious. After the injury, it just seems like when Kawhi has an injury that's a little more serious, especially since that injury in San Antonio with the quad, it just seems like he's going to be cautious and he's going to go with what him and his team feel is best for his body. The team can say one thing because we saw what happened with the Spurs. They can say one thing. They can say, oh, yeah, you're ready to go. You're good. You can get back out there now. If he don't feel 100%, and I've heard this from different people, I had Andrew Greif. He covers the Clippers for the LA Times. I had him on my podcast a couple weeks ago during the Suns and Clippers series. And we both kind of said the same thing, that the Clippers had been really secretive. When it came, like Ed you alluded to, they had been really secretive about his injury. I figured he was not coming back. Even if they had got past the Suns somehow without him and got to the finals, I just didn't see him playing again this year because we've seen his history, okay? We've seen what happens when he feels he's seriously injured. He's not going to push it. And, hey, some guys will push it, some guys won't. I don't question athletes on their injuries. You know your body better than I do. I don't question people on that. So I don't know who's saying that he's going to be back by the beginning of the next season. I just don't see it happening. Honestly, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, me neither. I really don't see it happening. They say partial ACL tears and surgeries usually take 3 or 4 months. Well, if we do the math, that's coming up around October. So he's not going to be ready for opening day. And not if you want to do it safely and the right way, Kawhi won't be ready to go. You just can't throw a guy like that out there and just say, okay, go ahead, Kawhi. Yeah, we kind of hope and trust that the ACL is good. We don't know if it's going to be good. And as you mentioned, Chris, Kawhi is going to be like, no, I know my ACL. If it's not ready and I know I'm not ready, I'm not going out there. We saw it in the Sun series. He was clearly not ready to go and he didn't play in those games. And that was to the Clippers' detriment. So we will. It is kind of crazy how the Clippers are very secretive, right, Joe, about Kawhi's status and his health, but we'll see. But yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I cannot see him opening with the Los Angeles Clippers come next season.
Yeah, well, we'll get to learn more and how long he will eventually be out, as this news is fluid as well, and I don't see him coming out for the first game of the season, but I don't get it. I get it in a sense, but at the same time, why be so secretive? Because we know that you're going to be out for a good period of time. Why try to hide it? So, but you know what? One person who is not hiding how they feel and they have expressed it is Becky Hammon. In her, future and hopefully soon, potentially landing a head coaching position for an NBA team. So, and she has expressed that. I'm just going to go ahead and quote here. If you want to hire me, you'll find a reason to hire me. If you do not want to hire me, you will find a reason not to. That's just that. And she wants to be hired because of her being able to do the job, being able to perform, being able to do a head coach. Her repertoire, it speaks for itself, not because she's a woman, even though, yes, she will be making history, not only in the NBA, but in the sports world. And as we see that happening, throughout this year in sports and women, and this would be amazing, but she wants to have it be done for the correct reason. Do we honestly see that this is something that we see as soon as possibly this coming season, with whether that's the NBA or MLB, whichever league that may be, or is it, do we just see it as just kind of being politics and be like, okay, because she does have the qualifications and she is a woman, and let's go ahead and just do it, and because of the rumors and what's said out there and whatnot, put her in the mix, put her in the, in line to interview, but let's not give her the job. Like, and I get it where she's coming from. I don't know. What's your thought on this, Chris?
Well, Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. I do think she's going to have a head coaching job within the next 2 seasons. So if not this next off season, that would be 2022. I think by 2023, by that off season, she'll be in a head coaching spot. And to be even more honest, I think it's going to be. I still think there's a good chance that it'll be San Antonio. I'll be honest. I think a lot of people see her stepping in and taking over for Greg Popovich.
Pop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's time for Pop to it might be time for him to move along. All his Hall of Famers are gone now. And, that team just has not been the same pretty much since Kawhi Leonard left and, obviously Tim Duncan retired. And then you have Manu and Tony Parker. So, and it just, did you guys see him the other day getting snippy, at the Olympics or
I
at
did.
With the reporter?
Yeah.
Now that's nothing new for him, but it seems to be happening more often. You know what I mean? It seems to be happening more often. I just think he's getting to a point to where he's kind of tired of dealing with people. just honestly, I think he might be just tired of dealing with the dog and pony show a lot of times, and he doesn't respect a lot of the questions that come in from reporters after the game, before the game, whatever it is. Because you can tell in his sarcasm, the way he responds at times, that he just doesn't respect some of these people and the questions they're answering, or he's just like over it. You know what I mean? He's been doing it for so long. He's been their head coach for like damn near 30 years, like 25 years, whatever it is. So it just seems like he's kind of over it. But, going back to Becky Hammon, I do think it kind of is one of those things. I think this time around, as far as the head coaching search went, I think it was more her name got thrown out as, we'll give her an interview, kind of like how we talk about with minority head coaching, in the NFL and other places. It's like, it's kind of I don't want to say a token interview, but it's just like, let's give them an interview to say we did it. You know what I mean? I think sometimes it's one of those things, because the reports were coming out that she was probably going to get the job here in Portland, but
yes.
We know Damian Lillard, he had the guys that he wanted, and that's a whole nother topic for, we're not into that right now, but that's a whole nother topic. But again, and reports came out later that she never really was considered that strongly for the job here. Reports came out later after it was already said and done. So, yeah, I think she's correct. Someone's either going to hire her because they want to, or find a reason to not hire her. And it's usually hard for the first person doing something. We all know this, whatever it is. The pioneer, it's usually tougher on them. The ones that come after, it gets a little easier as time goes along. Now, that's not to say that there still aren't obstacles, because, being black and brown here, we understand that there are going to still be obstacles. She's not that, but she's a woman. So it's going to be tougher for her in a male-dominated field, a male-dominated sport, to be the first female head coach. I do think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be Becky. It didn't happen this year, but I think within the next 1 to 2 years, I think it happens. Because sometimes if it goes too long, then it's just kind of like that person's window kind of closes for whatever reason, and then it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So I think it's got to happen for her within the next couple of years, or she just may move on to something else herself instead of, putting herself through this. Because it's got to be a lot for her to deal with. You know what I mean? There were reports that came out about her not being a hard worker and all these things, that she wasn't ready. Now, I don't know whether she is or not. I've heard a lot of good things about her. The players in San Antonio seem to love her, seem to love working with her. So where all these other things came from, I have no idea. I think she gets a job in the next year or two. I really do think it'll be San Antonio, but even if it's not there, I think there's a team in the NBA for her. Definitely.
Yeah, I would love to see her take over after Pop. I mean, she's been there for 7 years, so maybe Pop is grooming for her to take over once he's ready to step down. That would be great, that she can just go ahead and fill Pop's shoes. I know she's coached in the summer league, and she's won a summer league title as the first woman head coach to do that. And she's coached in a game when Pop got thrown out. She was thrown into the head coaching position thanks to Pop and his outbursts. But we know Pop is Pop. He is going to be who he is. But I like the fact that she came out and said that, hey, just don't hire me just to be a trophy hire, just because I'd be the first woman to do this. Hire me on my merits and what I'm able to do as an assistant coach and potentially as a head coach for you. Don't just hire me just because I'm a woman and I would look good in front of the cameras and you would be the first organization to have a female head coach. Don't do that. Don't do it from a media standpoint and a marketing standpoint. Hire me because of what I can do for you as a head coach.
Can agree more.
Totally agree. And we will get to see sooner, hopefully, rather than later, her landing a spot as a head coach in the NBA and being that, she's a pioneer for many, many women in the sports industry. So, but with that, Criss, I know we kept you a little bit over, but that's great. Great sports talk. Yeah. But I do want to go ahead and just take a moment before we do let you go to have our great people who tune into our show know a little bit about the Courtside Crossover podcast and what you do and where they can find you.
Okay, yeah. So you can find me at fullpresscoverage.com. I write a few articles a week for them. It's all NBA over there. The Courtside Crossover is also on fullpresscoverage.com. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, pretty much anywhere where you get your podcasts. I mean, there's like 10 or 12 platforms as far as podcasts go where you can find the platform where you can find the podcast. I've had, different people on there from, other writers. Like I said, I had Andrew Greif on from the LA Times on a couple weeks ago. I have other podcasters on as well. Just people that are involved with working, covering the NBA or do something involving the NBA and just want to come on and talk basketball. Cause like all of us, we love to talk sports in general, but obviously we love to talk basketball too. So that's why this, finals has been just so great for me, just having different people on to talk about the finals and just the playoffs in general. Basketball is my favorite sport. It was always my favorite sport growing up, even though I loved baseball and football as well. But basketball has always been it for me. It's the first sport I ever played organized at like 6 years old. So basketball is always going to have a place in my heart. But yeah, and you can also find me at Criss Partee, that's CRISSPARTEE on Twitter and on Instagram.
Oh, Joe, can I ask Criss a real quick question about the Blazers?
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. So, Chris, are you excited about the future of the Blazers under Chauncey Billups? What are you going to see? What do you see as the future for them under him?
I'll be honest with you. It really is going to depend on what Damian Lillard does. Because, I mean, it's kind of seeming like he may want out at some point. Now, I know up until really the last month or so, he's always said, loyalty, I want to stick here. But some things have happened recently, and he may be feeling a little different about that now. So I don't know. And then even on top of that, they have to, they got to put a better team around him. You know what I mean? They haven't been able to get it done as far as him and CJ being the top two guys with the rest that they've put around him. Nurkic is always hurt. There was a lot of promise for Nurkic at one point, about 3 years ago, but he's always hurt. So you can't depend on him. So Neil O'Shea, the general manager for the Blazers, he's going to have to figure something out. Otherwise, he's going to be the next one out of town, like Terry Stotts just was. Terry Stotts was there for 9 years, but they, and people around here were upset about Terry Stotts getting fired. But I'll tell people, he was there for 9 years. They got to one conference finals and got swept by the Warriors when KD was hurt. Okay, he wasn't going to get them over the hump. It was time to move on. Like, this is not the era of we're going to keep a coach for 20 years, even though he doesn't win. That just doesn't happen anymore. It's really surprising he got 9 years in without really doing as far as making it to at least getting to a championship. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting. This next 12-month stretch, I don't know if Dame gets traded before that. Probably not, unless they just get a wonderful deal. And we all know you don't get value back for a superstar. You just don't. You don't get value back for that, guy that's that high up in the stratosphere as far as being a player in the NBA. So it's going to be interesting. Again, it just all hinges on what Dame does. Because if he leaves, they're probably going to be in trouble, depending on what they get back for him. They're just going to be in trouble.
Well, awesome stuff. Thank you very much, Chris. Once again, we'll definitely have you on again soon. If not enough time to talk everything we want, sports, but definitely sooner rather than later, we'll have you on and talk some more. So, but with that, I hope you have a good night.
You too, Joe and Ed. I appreciate it. Thank you again for having me on. I'll have to get you guys over on my podcast, one of these days.
Absolutely.
Of course. Let us know. Let me know. Let Ed know. We'll definitely make it work, and we'll be there.
Perfect.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chris.
All right. You guys have a good night.
You too, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
And
how awesome was that, Joe?
That was amazing. But we also have another guest joining us here as Chris leaves us. We have one of our great friends here. He is Mr. Sports Cave, PLR, joining us just in a great moment as we transition from NBA to MLB. And I want to go ahead and get his takes on a couple of things. I know he will be very vocal about it, and I know how much he loves this commissioner of this sport. And talk a little bit about NFL as we wrap up the last part of our show. But before we get into that, I want to ask, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit close to the camera here because I cannot make out what
PLR music. PLR music. Yeah.
PLR music.
Yeah.
From his DJing days, I take it.
Did you get, is it because I had the light on, you trying to say I'm dark? She's like, let me get close to the camera to see just how dark he is in the background. Let me take is he there? I see a black cat. I don't see nothing.
If you would see my setup, the way that I have it, like, so it minimizes the view for you guys on the camera angle, and I have my other stuff on the other side. So
that's a way of saying I couldn't see you quite dark. Let me get the light. Hold on, let me hit extra bright on the light so I could. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. There's Paul.
Wait a second. Light off. Where'd he go? Light on. There he is.
Oh gosh, you're too much. How are you today?
What's going on? I apologize for the lateness. I know you're a crunch with time. I see it up in the ticker. So fire away. Whatever you need.
Yeah, we'll go a little bit over time today. No problem. Probably do like a little bit 10 minutes after the hour. But I do want to go ahead and get into MLB. I know Rob Manfred is your favorite people of all time and how much you do love this guy. But we had the All-Star game, Tuesday night, and along the whole All-Star break, well, Mr. Manfred, Commissioner Manfred, came out and spoke about some changes that we will more than likely foresee in the future. We don't know how soon that future will be, whether it's next season soon or longer than that, and that has to do with the 7 inning double headers and going away with that. And he also mentioned about the runner in second base when a game goes into extra innings and eliminating that. So it seems like he's gotten some feedback, and now it's of course it's been no secret for many of us that we are not a fan of either one of those two new rules that came into MLB and that were adopted. So what are your thoughts about this, PLR? How do you feel?
I love the rules. I like both of them. I want them both to stay. To be perfectly honest with you, I like them both. There is nothing worse than sitting in that press box in inning number 17 and having your 15th string center fielder pitching because you're trying to save pitchers. At that point, just sacrifice the run and be over, go home. There is nothing worse than that. You can't steal anymore because the analytic nerds, you say you can't do that. You can't bunt out of a shift because the analytic nerds say you can't do that. It's the only part of the game that still puts pressure on the pitcher. It's the only part because there's a runner with no out at second base. That's the only time you ever see bunts anymore. I know I'm not the biggest Tony La Russa fan, but I saw him bunt someone over to third in extra innings, and the very next batter after the sacrifice, the run scored. Sox won by a run. It made you actually play real baseball again, not go to first. I'll wait. Was there a home run? Oh no. Let me go back, get my glove, and I'll do it again. Wouldn't
you be playing real baseball anyway?
No. It's the analytics has taken the fun out of baseball. Baseball isn't fun anymore. It's still America's pastime, but it is not a fun sport. You can't tell me if you watch baseball back when Ricky Henderson was playing, Rock Reigns was playing, Tommy Herr was playing, Willie McGee was playing, Vince Coleman was playing. They're running all over the base path. You're getting the ball in play. You're forcing people. St. Louis was great at that. They didn't have a home run hitter. For a while, they had Will Clark before he went back to San Fran, and they had Jack Clark. That was their quote-unquote home run hitter, and he hit maybe 30 home runs a year. What they did do with Ozzie Smith and Willie McGee and Coleman and Terry Pendleton before he went over to Atlanta was they put the ball in play. And Keith Hernandez before he joined the Mets. They all put the ball in play, and they all put pressure on you every single at-bat because you knew they were a bunch of slap hitters that would every now and then get doubles and move people all over the base. That's the only thing we have now when it goes extra innings because no one does that 1 through 9. So that's the only time you'll actually see old baseball back. So I hate that for that. 2, there's only one thing worse than seeing a center fielder pitch in the 17th inning is seeing him pitch in the 11th inning of the second game of a day-night doubleheader. That was going 9 innings each. That is god-awful. Seven innings was perfect. It made fans actually not mind staying for 2. You're young, Joanna, and there wasn't a baseball team here. But I'm sure Ed remembers, and I know I remember going to a doubleheader. Look, I'm not even a Cubs fan, but going there for doubleheaders was fun. There was no lights, so the first game had to start at 11, and they had to get through that game because that second game had to be done before it got dark. So pitchers actually pitched when they caught the ball. They didn't have to circle the mound. They didn't have to look down. They didn't have to touch their hat 35 times. No one took time out 70 times, and the games moved. A doubleheader 7-inning game makes all the sense in the world. You're not at the ballpark all freaking day because Someone from the Yankees got on first, and now we got to sit there and wait for Aaron Judge to hit a home run or Gary Sanchez to hit a home run. At least move the game along. So I like both of them. I think baseball's moving itself backwards just because it never allows to let itself move forward. So no, I hate both. I think Manfred is doing it again. So yes, I do think he's an idiot. This time I think he's an idiot for going the wrong way.
Well, I have a different opinion on that. So I think the runner in second base, I do not like it. Really, I don't.
Really?
I think it takes away from away from the game. Like,
But
I
where?
think that you should be playing baseball anyway. I get what you're saying, with that, but I just don't like it. Like, why give a team a runner in second? They're gonna score right away, and then have the others. It's, I don't know. It just takes away from it.
But they both do. You know what I mean? They both get a runner at second. It's not like you're giving any. It's like penalty kicks in soccer. Look, give me penalty kicks. After sitting there and watching the game, after the penalties for 100 minutes, the last thing I want to do is watch longer soccer. Give me those PKs. Let's go bang, bang, bang. Let's get it over. Get the hell up out of here. Same with basketball. Imagine if basketball overtimes were 12 minutes, or we didn't put a timer on the clock. It would be boring because you would go, oh my God, when is this thing going to end? Notice what the NBA did in the All-Star game, which I think works beautifully. The fourth quarter, they've added up all the scores, and then they add a number to it to reach a number. There's no TV commercials. There's no nothing. If you're down by 20 points, you better make it up. But the first team to get to this point, that's it. It's over. So you're not sitting there waiting for 9,000 TV timeouts. There's no, you're basically giving an advantage to the team with the lead, saying, please end this because it's an all-star game. Let's be over with. And baseball is so different. You can't go back. So let me ask you this question. So say it's a doubleheader, right? And there's a rain delay. And the rain delay is after the second inning. And the rain delay is an hour long, but they got to get these two games in because both teams need these games on their schedule, and in September. So the first day-night doubleheader starts at say 12 o'clock. Or let's even be nice, 11 o'clock. They're delayed now until 1 o'clock, but they got to get these games in. You know what you just lost? You just lost a starting pitcher because he can't come back out after sitting for 2 hours. So now you got to bring in another pitcher. Now, if that pitcher gets roughed up early, guess what you got to do? You got to go to another pitcher. Guess who's now not available? 2 of the pitchers that you could have used for that second game aren't available because you had to use them for the first
game. Yes.
In the first game. And now you got to figure out a way to elongate the game without elongating the game, because if you use too many pitchers or you bring in a position player, all he's going to do is give up runs. And heaven forbid someone actually swings at a ball and hits a home run off a position player. So you're just elongating the game. I think the one thing that baseball doesn't get, and I'm with you, the game is such a great game. But baseball fans forget that the majority of the money still comes from the casual fan. The casual fan is a younger crowd. I'm not an MMA fan. I like boxing. I like the science of it. I like the setup. Young people don't want to watch a boxing match go 12 rounds. They want 3 rounds, elbow you in the face, kick you in the neck, tap out so they can wear their tap out shirts and talk about how they could beat up the person that just got knocked out. They want it quick. They want it fast. Look at the NFL highlights. Everything is a pass. No one wants to run the ball anymore. Everything is fast, action-based. NBA, 3-pointers. Nobody cares about the mid-range game, even though in the playoffs, that's what wins. But during the season, you don't have time for that. It's threes. Get it up fast. Do this. Baseball's missing the point. You're now doing something that's slowing the game down, and you can't market to an audience when you're saying we're so traditional. This is the way we've always done it, when we're slowly moving from an older style of entertainment to a newer style of entertainment. If you got, I bet you this, it's 8:05. In the old days, if you were hungry, you'd have to know if you're going to be hungry at 8:30 because you better turn that oven on and start getting ready to heat your food up so it'll be ready when you get hungry. But now you don't have to worry about it. You can wait till you're actually hungry. Ding, 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 ding. Microwave, a minute later, you're eating. Baseball doesn't understand. We're now a microwave society. Instead of waiting around watching this slow game, I can flip on cable or Hulu or Netflix or whatever to 8,000 things and flip back and just rewind my DVR back to when the run was scored. So I think this is where they're missing. The game is trying to fight itself to stay the same when it's moving forward, but the analytical geeks aren't doing anything to move it forward. They're doing everything that's slowing it down more. So I think that's why baseball's tough for new fans.
It is
tough.
It is. It's very tough.
tough, and I don't disagree with you on the double header situation. Like the runner in second, that's a whole different opinion on the double headers. Oh, yeah, do something to help the players, to help the game. Because yes, I agree with you. Sometimes it can go on for too long.
Yeah,
If you're
speed the game up.
If you're gonna do double headers, you want to set it for a certain time. Okay, do 9 innings. Don't let them go any longer than 9 innings. And the way that it ends, if you're gonna do a double header, if it's tied, then just have it be a tie. Have it not go any further than it has to. Or if it's gonna be 7 innings, okay, it could be 7 innings, but honor the rules that come with the game of 9 innings. So get your rules straight. We had, situation with Madison Bumgarner. He pitched a perfect game, but he wasn't, given that perfect game because he didn't pitch the 9 innings. He only pitched 7 innings. So those are the dynamics in which I do not agree with MLB doing with 7 inning. If you're going to do a double header or 7 inning game, and then you're not going to, it's not going to play equal to a 9 inning game. And that's where I have the beef about it. But no, go ahead, make the game better. Have double headers. You're gonna have all these games go along and go for 20 innings, but don't take away from the game. Improve it. That's what I have the problem with it.
Well, I think they're idiots anyway in terms of this. If you give a game and you set it for 7 innings, whatever records were set in the 7 innings are set in 7 innings. So, in saying that, let's say someone hit 5 home runs in 7 innings. Does that count? Yeah, counts as 5 home runs in the game, right?
Yeah.
But if you pitch a no-hitter, it doesn't count because it wasn't 9 innings. So, but all the offensive stats, they'll count. But the pitching stat doesn't. See, to me, that's not an issue with the system. It's an issue with these idiots still trying to hold on to yesteryear while still trying to do something that makes sense for today's game. See, I think that's the problem. They're saying offensively, we're going. It's like the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose, you can't come in the Hall of Fame, but your bases, your bats, your balls, your uniform, all that's welcome, but you're not.
But not you.
And
yes.
that's been the problem with baseball for so long. And for the older people, and I mean like those writers that have been doing this that's in their 60s and their 70s, they got that firm grip on. Well, I remember watching Willie Mays run 55 feet and catch a ball in the hand that didn't have a glove behind his back and throw it to second, and he never took anything. They hold on to that. And if you hit them with stuff like they took uppers, it's speed, it's called greenies. Yeah, but it didn't affect them because they don't want to ever admit that anything that happened in their era could possibly be tarnished or could possibly be bad. So they want to hold those same broken principles to today's game. They're the same people that talk about the sticky tack and all the stuff that they're using now, but they laugh at Phil Niekro with the Brillo pad or a nail file or all the cheating that happened. And they laugh at Office. It was just part of the game. Listen, the game is changing. And I think we, in terms of sports, and this is all sports, even though we know how we like it. Look, I love basketball in the 80s and the 90s. I do. I get tired of these ticky-tack fouls. Call it both ways. Let them play. Physical is fine. I'm one of the few people in Phoenix that has no issue with the Bucks roughing up the Suns because, you know what? That's what you get for being home court. You get a home court advantage. Your physical team, you get to play physical. But now every time you touch someone, it's a foul. Every time you do this, it's this. Everyone, we're mad because people want to shoot all this or do all that. Look, I don't necessarily love it, but the game has evolved. Basketball has allowed itself to evolve. Ed, you remember, you saw it, Joanna, you saw the 30 for 30 Bears, Monsters of the Midway. That 85 team took out 3 quarterbacks in one game. The one quarterback had to come back injured because they didn't have another one. As a Bears fan at the time, as people that love defense, we love that. But the game had to evolve because the quarterbacks are the money makers and they had to be protected. And even though we get mad when our team gets in trouble defensively for what they do to a quarterback, when it's the other way around, we're like, no, you can't let him hit our quarterback like that. That's our guy. Well, they've evolved. The ones, it's baseball. They always want to hold on. And you can't hold on and move the game forward. Taxis are out of business almost because Uber and Lyft, even though Uber and Lyft has shown them the way, taxis still won't even do anything online. They still want you to hail a cab the old-fashioned way.
Yeah,
they won't even say, you know what? Hell, we could put Uber and Lyft out of business. We have enough cars on the street where if you want to go online, you could do it. And if we walk by, if you're walking by, you can say, hey, we'll pick you up. We'll charge you a $5 premium right now to hop in this cab instead of waiting 10 minutes, 20 minutes for an Uber. Hop in. It's only $5 more. We have their pricing right here on their app. They won't even do that to stay in business because they feel their model is so strong. Even though it's dying, they're going to hold on to it. That's what baseball's doing.
Yeah. Well, any final thoughts, Ed, before we close out the show?
I think Paul said it all best.
Okay.
That's why we got it. That's why we got him on to wrap it all up.
I know, right? Just perfect timing to wrap up the show in a bow.
PLR music.
Yeah. So before we sign off, PLR, let our awesome people know where they can go ahead and find you.
You can find me talking about that idiot Conor McGregor. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock. The Cave Show. Go to the Sports Cave. Cave is with a K. Hit the live button, 1 o'clock, Arizona time. And then you can also get me on the Instagram, the Facebook, and the Twitter at the Sports Cave. Cave is with the K. This website is the Sports Cave. Cave is with the K. And PLR on Sports on Twitter. Yeah. And I'm not sliding into your DMs, guys. I'm not sliding into your DMs. I'm not doing it. What a freaking idiot. Oh, and we're on Spotify and iHeartRadio. The Cave Show brought to you by the Sports Cave. I'm sliding in your Ed, I'm sliding in your DMs right now. We're going to fight again. I'm an idiot. I can't fight anymore, but I can talk crap. That's stupid.
Yeah, I came out with multiple fractures in my leg, but I still fought anyway.
Hey, look, who's in a better position? I know you got to go, but I got to ask this. Who's in a better position? Him talking crazy or Dwayne Haskins, whose wife whooped his ass?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry. He was hiring her as a stripper this time last year, and this year she whooping his ass. Boy, that's a marriage on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
No comment for me on that one.
Oh, jeez.
But Ed, I want to pick up on you. You had a little bit trouble there breathing. Are you okay?
I'm good. It's the PLR effect.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
I feel you. And it's your do up. What's the place where our awesome people can find you?
Of course, right here on Inside Sports Talk on Brother PLR's show, as we ripped it earlier today, the Sports Cave, on Twitter at EdCole43, Instagram at EdwardCole301, and Facebook, Edward Cole. Oh, Paul.
Oh, I was barely able to get through that one. My gosh. You guys are too much. But definitely listen to the Sports Cave. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak now. Awesome stuff brought to you by PLR there and talking Conor McGregor and his thoughts on everything. For sure, follow him on Twitter, most definitely. But if you're sensitive, do not do so. But you can go ahead and find me, Joanna Rosalie, on both Instagram and Twitter at JRosalie. That's JROSALYE. You can find the oh my gosh, I drew a blank. Oh my goodness. You can find Inside Sports Talk on all major podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We are there. And you can follow Inside Sports Network on Instagram at Inside Sports Net and on Twitter at Inside Sports with an extra S at the end. And with that, we leave you. Thank you. Good night. And this was Inside Sports Talk.